the Sustaining Creativity podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Indra Rinzler, healer, teacher, and creative expresser. Please enjoy Indra Rinzler. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. Today, I am here with Indra Rinzler, a creative expresser who I hope will share a bit more about all the things he gets into. But welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited to chat with you about all things creativity. But before we dive in, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, who I am is really, that's the work of a lifetime, is to figure out who we are. And I like to say I've been on the spiritual path for 50 years. I mean, what I do now is I do astrology and I do the Enneagram, and I help people to wake up to who they really are. These modalities are a map or a tool to help us to become who we really are, not who we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that, in a sense, I wanted to do my whole life, but I haven't really started doing them professionally until relatively recently, which is still, 8, 10 years ago. But the idea being is that the exploration, the way that I wanted to present it, it took a long time for me to develop into those ideas and that understanding. And the idea is that I had a client one time who wanted to take the world's greatest photograph, and his problem was that he never pushed the shutter, because when he looked in the camera, he never saw the world's greatest photograph. He was a procrastinator. And so the idea being that I may be a procrastinator, I may be a late bloomer, but the idea is that to do what I wanted to do the way that I wanted to do it without any understanding of what it was, it took a while to mature into, and that's okay as far as I'm concerned.
Nice. I really appreciate the transparency about your journey and how you arrived and becoming who you are. I think is a creative journey in and of itself, discovering who we are, what we want to do, how we want to do it, and how we bring that into a bigger presentation or sharing with more people. So you're already creative.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The creation is what you're doing. It isn't necessarily the result, it's the process.
Yeah.
It's what I have kind of come to.
Mm-hmm.
And so the creativity is the evolving, is the evolution, the creation. It's something that isn't so much about coming into myself to express. It's actually about letting go of myself to express. It's counterintuitive that way to my thinking, to my experience. And so when I try to be quote creative, then nothing comes. But as soon as I let go, then I have to stand back. I'm standing back. Then it just gushes forward. And so it's an expression. I don't consider it my expression. I consider it an expression through me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about getting myself out of the way in order to have that expression. That's the way I look at it. That's
Yeah.
my experience.
That's a great experience. I love it. And I imagine there are times where it's easier to get out of your way than others. How do you navigate the times when it's more challenging to get out of your way?
Well, I think the thing is to realize that uh, I had these periods. I've had a couple of periods when I was artistically endeavored,
Hmm.
like these paintings behind me, it's like an 18-month cycle. And it's like during that period, all of a sudden it comes. I had one at these were like in my early 50s. I had a period of using a rapidograph, is that what they used to call it, that really neat pen? Anyways, that was in I was in my 20s, and I did that for about 18 months. And they were very creative. It was a very creative time, and I have no idea where it came from, and I have no idea where it left. And I don't that doesn't really matter. And
Mm-hmm.
so the process is one is understanding that sometimes it'll flow and sometimes it won't, and that's okay. That isn't that I'm not trying to build up my ego, and I'm not trying to express my ego. I'm just trying to let the nature to let the nature flow, in a sense, to let nature flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, sometimes the trees don't have any leaves on them, and sometimes they have these really bright, beautiful green leaves, and sometimes they are red and yellow and orange, and then they fall off. And each of those are okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when I'm at least realizing that, then I'm being creative, even if I'm not doing anything,
Yeah.
because I'm into the flow of what is. And
Mm-hmm.
that's my own and that's the expression that's coming through.
Nice. I mean, it really speaks to nourishing all aspects of the creative process where resting and rejuvenating is a part of it. And we're not producing all the time, every moment. And that's a great reminder.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and that's how it is for me. But I'm not every day trying to pump out art or be creative in a sense of a sense of creating a product as
Yeah.
such. I will mention to you that I did have an interesting. So I've been doing writing. That has been something that's been there a long time, but
Mm-hmm.
only once again in the last 8 to 10 to 12 years has it been in the forefront. And I know it's the time. And I felt I don't remember when it was, maybe about a year ago, I really felt that this was the time. There was a time, it's not the right time yet, it's not the right time yet. And then this is the time. And so it really started flowing. And I started writing a book. And so I would spend 2 hours a day in the morning writing, and it was flowing really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hit a more difficult patch, and also more recently in the summer. And I usually, after I write, then I go outside, but it's kind of hot outside. And so if I spend 2 hours, it's going to be really too hot. So I had to shorten my time. But what was more interesting to me is that I got to, in this hard patch, I got to a place, and it might be that in a day I might look at my page and read a paragraph, and then I would waste my time, and then I'd say I've had enough. And then the next day I might read two paragraphs, and I might write a half a sentence, and I might feel that that's enough because it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it was difficult what I was trying to grasp. And the writing for me comes through me. And so what happens is then I go away from it, and during the day I carry around a little notebook, and
Mm-hmm.
I write down my thoughts, and I'm not thinking about any of it, but the solutions come to the knot of what I'm trying to write. And
Mm-hmm.
then I write them down. And so then I get back to it the next day, and maybe now I can spend 5 really productive minutes, and that's it for that particular day. And I thought to myself, in one hand, I might have thought, well, this is a waste of time. And then on another hand, I might have said, well, this is the process right now. And that the next day, even after reading one paragraph or even one sentence, like there was progress,
Mm.
evolution. There was a little bit closer to wanting to grab onto what I was doing and what was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that day, maybe something came in between, or maybe for a week nothing came. I remember having the thought, why do I carry around the notebook? I'm not writing anything down. But then the next day I might have, on my walk I do every day, I might have 3 or 4 things that come through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that it has nothing to do with me. I mean, other than getting out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
that the work is being, that I'm just a receiving station,
Mm-hmm.
a the opposite of the transmitter. On the receiver
Yeah.
of the information, and that I'm not actually writing the book. The book is being written through me, and
Mm-hmm.
then each day I get given a little bit more. And so, like right now, I'm working on something a little bit different. I've decided to put out an article,
Mm-hmm.
and I read it through this morning, the third day in, and it's almost done, because I took some stuff that I'd already done
Mm-hmm.
and reworked it for a particular market. And then I think, well, it's all here, like I'm writing it and I read it and I say, I think it's all here, it's done. But then during the day, another idea, another little tidbit,
Yeah.
that it's on one little aspect, that there's a little bit more to say, and it comes, and it's perfect. Every day it's perfect, but I have no idea that it's missing, that it needs this perfection. And I have no idea, if somebody had said, well, what about right here? I might have been able to come up with the idea to fill it out. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact is that the holes come intuitively. It's like a natural Swiss cheese, that the hole is just there and it gets filled. And I don't know that the hole is there. I'm thinking, hey, this is pretty good. This is in my ego mind, my intellectual. Gee, that reads kind of nice. And then the higher authority comes and says, no, you're missing this. And I
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, yeah, let's add that. And the the innocent one in me says, well, maybe it'll be done tomorrow, or maybe it won't. It doesn't matter.
That trusting the process, whatever the process is.
Absolutely. And you brought me to another point,
Okay.
if I may go so
Yes.
far, that the
We.
trusting. So this is a little bit obtuse, but the thing is that as an astrologer,
Mhm.
we happen to have a house that we dedicate to creativity.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever talked about that before or ever thought about it, but we got a whole house, the fifth house, that's designed for creativity. And so in mundane astrology, it might be the house of children. If they say, am I going to have children? Let's say, well, let's look at your fifth house.
Hmm.
That's not something I'm particularly interested in. But what I do with it is that if you have planets there, then you're going to be creatively expressive, and
Mm-hmm.
that the nature of the planets there will be the nature of the expression.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, suppose you don't have any planets there. This is coming back to your point.
Mhm.
Suppose you don't have any planets there. Well, what does that mean? Well, it could mean that you're not. It doesn't mean that you may not be creative. It may be that you're creative in different ways. You may be creative through your occupation. And I ran a store many, many years ago. 40 years ago, we ran a store that was all things that were handmade, and it
Mm-hmm.
included everything, including jewelry and apparel and
Mm-hmm.
gifts and all sorts of things. But everything was handmade rather than manufactured. That was handcrafted. So people would come in and they say, "Well, did you make all this?" And I would say, "Well, no, my art is putting this all together." There's like 200 different vendors that
Yeah.
are represented in this store, and that making the hours and making the way people dress, the help, and the way that
Mhm.
they take care of the customer, that there had to be we wanted to make it a wholeness, that we wanted to have it all, that the better we did, the more integrated were all the aspects of the store. And so people said, well, do you make these things? I said, well, no, my art is three-dimensional. This is what I'm creating. This is my art at the time. And so the so 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 wasn't it isn't that I don't have creativity, it's just that that I didn't have natally a planet in that house. And
Mm.
what that means, I do a modality that is called the Wheel of Totality.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have the fifth house empty, this is coming back to your point. This is a
Yeah,
long story. Coming
I
back
love
to the
it.
point is that you don't understand that there's a cosmic intelligence,
Mm.
that it starts by this giving this power to a god, a man on the throne, a very fundamentalist view of traditional religions. That's how it starts. But eventually, right before totality, you become to realize that there's a cosmic intelligence. And
Mm.
in that cosmic intelligence, you learn to be able to trust and accept what is.
Mm.
And so that people that don't have a planet in the house of creativity have trouble trusting and accepting what is. But if you're being creative,
Yeah.
coming back to your point, then you have an ability to trust and accept what is, and then the flow of creativity, of creation, of evolution is through you,
Mm.
and it's just an expression. And you can say it's your expression, you can say I did it, but my point of view is that I didn't mess it up. I'm not blocking it. That's my skill, is
That's
not blocking it, that I'm a listener, that I can hear it,
absolutely.
that I can feel it and respond to it, rather than I'm not the creator of it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for taking the detour through the astrological fifth house because it's fascinating whether you have planets in that house or not, how creativity manifests and shows up for you. So thank you for that piece of
Sure.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you also do Enneagram. Is there creativity expression for certain numbers or in all of the numbers? What's that?
Well, you know much about the Enneagram?
I know bits and pieces.
Okay. So, well, fours are pretty creative. I mean, they're the creative monsters. They're the ones that on Facebook use adjectives like crazy. Like they have a post and it's adjective crazy. That's a four. And
Okay.
so they're the most creative, but they take on the task of needing to be unique in their creativity. They take it on so heavily that they feel the sadness. They bring beauty to sadness, but
Yeah.
they also bring the but they sit in it, and so they
Mm.
don't feel the joy. They feel the pain of the sadness. And so the fours, Dylan and Michael Jackson and
Mhm.
Whitney Houston, these are the creative Prince. These are the creative types that bring that bring us incredible the poetry and the
Mhm.
artistic qualities, that they don't have to do anything in order to be
Yeah.
uh beautiful and creative and sensitive and
Mhm.
expressive, that it's if you remember Jackie Kennedy, Jackie
Yeah.
Onassis, a four,
Mhm.
she thrilled us when I was a kid, taking us through the White House, China, and showing us all the artistics,
Yeah.
and it just it's a way of living that has
Mhm.
nothing to do with a paintbrush and a photography. It's walking across the room. it's
Right.
it's attractive and creative, and so that's the height is the four. I mean, everybody has artistic sense in them, but it's going to be expressed. I mean, a five will do it in a more minimalistic way.
Mhm.
The fives are concerned about catastrophic depletion, and so they're not going to. Uh, I was going to say they're not going to write a whole symphony, and I'm sure some of those great masters were five. So I'm
Sure.
not saying that they're
Yeah.
not wouldn't, but I'm saying that the idea is that they would do it in a different way, that it would be a different expression.
Mm.
It wouldn't have the depth of a four, but it doesn't that it didn't have depth, but it has depth in a different way. And it's a really interesting idea, because all the flavors have their own levels of skills. And so a six would bring you with the loyalty and the dedication and the dutifulness to fill up the whole page, in order to not feel to make sure that everything is covered and every base is covered, because they wanted to feel secure.
Mhm.
And sevens would do it slipshod, and in a way that they would procrastinate, and they would think it's really good even though it's hardly anything, and they may quit it before they finish, because it's too complex to handle all at one sitting or one lifetime, perhaps. So everybody would do it in a completely different way.
I love that explanation of the numbers and how they show up in their creative expression and how each is so different, but none more or less creative than another. I think that I appreciate that experience.
Absolutely. I mean, fours can exhale it, and the rest of us maybe have to work at it a little bit.
Right.
But I wouldn't say that it's like the astrology, that there isn't a position. I mean, there are positions that are easier, there are positions that are
Sure.
less challenging, but there isn't any that's either better or worse than any other. They all have a downside. It's all a
Yeah.
play between the high side and the low side. It's not a play between this is talented and good and this isn't talented and isn't good.
Right.
And yeah, I'm just thinking about comedians who have look like they have absolutely no talent, but they're incredibly talented because they make it look so simple. I mean, it looks like they're just telling a story, but it's like they've been working on it
Right.
forever. You don't really know, because so much of comedy is one-liners, but
Right.
you have built up a either a repertoire, or you've built up the ability to be in the moment, and rather than be thinking about what do I need to say, you just say it. and
Mm-hmm.
and that's a skill. That's something that you have to develop. It's not, I mean, it's not everybody's native ability.
Absolutely. Well, I'm very curious in your experience, what's your earliest memory of being creative yourself?
Yeah, so that's that. Yeah, that I saw that question. I would have to say what I was thinking, because I wasn't particularly arty about any of it when I was a kid, and I would say I was a numbers person. I
Mhm.
think that's how I got into astrology. I was a numbers person, and I developed some ways of keeping stats and information, sportsy things or other kinds of things that I would use, and working with numbers in order to be creative and expressive. In terms of the expression, I would say when I was young, I can't say that I was a free spirit. Well, I'd say I was a free spirit in the fact that I was not very disciplined, but I would not say that I was a very free spirit in the sense that I was creatively expressing. I was being myself, and perhaps that was, I suppose, creativity, but not in the sense of achieving anything. There was not a goal in particular other than these stats that I used to do, and
Mhm.
being creative with keeping records of things and such. That was sort of my earliest.
That's fantastic. I think being able to see non-traditional things as being creative is important. Creativity isn't just performing arts or fine arts. It's so many things. It's whatever you're passionate about, you get to be creative within. If it's numbers, if it's dog walking, if it's, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I call it crocheting, kayaking, or mountain climbing.
There you go. There you go.
it's
Exactly. All
actually
of it.
it's actually a way of life. It's not actually about what you're doing. It's actually about the attitude you have towards life. That's the creativity.
Yeah.
If you're not blocking the flow.
Yeah. And I'm curious because you're able to trust the process, is that something that you feel you gained as you got older, or is it something that you've always had within you?
Well, I think we always have it within us, and I think that you gain it as you get older. It's neither
Perfect.
it's not a one or the other. I think that you know, in 20s and 30s you have a lot of ego demands, and
Sure.
so you don't listen very well, and so you're mostly pushing. You're not accepting. You're not so receptive. You're more pushing and needing, and so you close the portals with that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you get older, then you stop doing that, and then the portals are there.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right. Well, I imagine working with people in many different capacities that you have run across, or maybe even yourself have come in contact with people who don't think they are creative, or you yourself have had times where you don't think you're creative. How would you encourage others to find creativity in their life?
um just to let go, to become who they are, to stop pushing at
Mm-hmm.
it,
Mm-hmm.
to let the flow happen. you know I might take them back in the moment. It occurs to me I might take them back to a moment when they were creative, and what were they feeling then, and see if we can reproduce that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Nice.
was I was thinking you were about I thought what you were about to say was going to give me this answer, so I'm going to give you the answer anyways. But I had at this store, we had three different tasks. We
Uh-huh.
had the working with the people, selling. We had the behind the counter, and we had the business, not the business side, but the money and the cash register, and the
Yeah.
that side. And then there was the decor side.
Mm-hmm.
And I only had one worker who was really good at all three of those, because they're very diverse.
Yeah.
But she was very difficult to work with.
Ah, the truth comes out.
That she had those skills, four, I do believe. I think
Yeah.
now this was 40 years ago. A four. So she had that creativity, but she was not, had the most easygoing, pleasant personality. She was feisty and drama queen, and demanding, a little bit demanding in relation to the other people,
Mhm.
and so you don't have everything. She had the ability to do all three of those skills, which was very rare, but she was not really personable herself.
A challenging human to navigate with. I get that. I understand that. I've known
So
people.
so the creativity does not make you a nice person. I'm not talking about her, but I'm saying in
Yeah.
general, it may not make you a nice person. It may not make you a great lover. It may not make you a wonderful partner. But
Mhm.
it may be that you have incredible creativity. You become so. I mean, the great artists, the great writers were probably pretty hard to live with. Maybe the writers, they're a little bit more disciplined, but the musicians and the artists are definitely can be more hard to live with.
From the stories that I've heard about prolific artists, yes, it sounds like it might be a little challenging. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many different expressions of creativity in the world, and we all navigate the best we can, and sometimes it's well received and sometimes it isn't. So yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been such a treat to chat with you. I just have one last question. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
What does it feel like when I'm creative?
However you choose to interpret the question, you can respond.
Yeah, what it feels like is it feels inspiring. It
Mm,
feels it feels a value. It feels valuable. It feels in the moment.
mhm,
And it feels timeless.
mm.
and
Great word.
it feels touching into everything. I was going to say one of your questions is what how do you get inspired? And I don't get inspired by the things that I'm particularly interested in doing. I
Mm.
just get inspired about seeing anybody do what they do. That
Mm.
it takes me, like movies uh are inspiring about whatever it is that I want to do. It isn't like a comedy to write comedy. I'm not talking about that, but it's the bigness of it, the screen and the music and the high quality and the expressiveness of it,
Mhm.
that rather than feeling the envy of why didn't I think of that and why didn't I make the movie, it kind of takes me to whatever it is that I want to do, whether it's reach people through astrology readings or reach people through um, podcast shows that I've been on, or through sending them an email, or at the shows, the psychic type shows that I do, that I set up a booth and offer readings, that it inspires me in what I do,
Mm.
because it's touching into the larger into the sphere of creativity, into the
Mhm.
flow of creativity. And it isn't about that it has to be my particular subject in order to make it inspirational for me. I don't know if that's like that for everybody, but
Mhm.
that's definitely the way that it is for me.
Nice. Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking, is that the way how it is for me? Maybe.
Is
Yeah.
maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah. Being inspired, not because I'm watching someone do something that I wish I could do, but being inspired of like, oh, I'm going to take whatever joy they're expressing or passion they're expressing and absorb that and put it into whatever it is I want to do and share.
So it's their vibration that inspires us
Yeah.
to reach into our own vibration.
Mm-hmm. Love it. That's amazing. Fantastic to figure out and to experience. And thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. If people want to learn more about all of the things you do, how could they go about doing that?
Well, I have a website, Indra Rinzler, all one word.com. They can check out what I do there. I have an email, Indra Rinzler, all one word, at gmail.com, if people want to write and ask um, questions or comment on anything and learn about more about what I do. I do make an offer on the podcast to anybody who's interested. I'm happy to send you your Vedic, not your Western, but your Vedic astrology chart. It's not a reading, but it's your chart, and I'll tell you how to go about it a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of information. That's free. I need your a birth date, time, and place. So uh, email me that, and I will send it back to you. And also, if you're interested in learning more about the Enneagram, I have a simple test that you can take. It's about 5 or 10 minutes. That's also free. Send that request to my email, and be happy to send you the test and help you to learn about these two modalities.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes as well so people can have easy access. And thank you again so much for chatting and talking about creativity and life and trusting the process. I really appreciated it.
Very good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.